Welcome to the Inspired Caring Podcast, where women who are in the messy middle of this big, beautiful, and sometimes chaotic life are finding inspiration and resources to care for themselves and figure out the best options to care for their aging loved ones. How we take care of ourselves today impacts how we are aging tomorrow. This podcast will help you feel seen, centered, and aligned. Everyone that relies on you is so lucky to have you in their life. The Inspired Caring Podcast is your reminder that the number one person that counts on you is yourself. Congratulations on being here in this moment. Let's dive in and be inspired. Today, we are really excited to have Lesley Brandt with the Move Coordinators on the show. Welcome, Lesley.
Thank you.
So happy to have you here. So share a little bit about your background.
Very good. Well, thank you for having me today, Michelle. I really appreciate it. So Lesley Brandt with the Move Coordinators. We are a newly formed senior move management company that serving the Omaha and surrounding markets. But certainly have nationwide reach. We are part of an affiliate network of other like planners and coordinators in the moving industry. So ultimately, Michelle, I'm parlaying some experience in running a services business. I planned events for over 25 years, started a company, and recently then parlayed those skills into starting the Move Coordinators for many reasons. First of all, I love to plan things. I love to be in charge. I love to be the go-to person to really use my number one Clifton strength, which is activation. So I love to get things done, but certainly with an empathetic lens as well. So getting back to working one-on-one with in the personal sector to offer a service that is oftentimes maybe unknown or not fully realized that it is possible to hire a move coordinator to help basically hold our clients' hands through the entire move process, which is often a downsize. It's often moving into a community or even moving in with family.
I mean, you mentioned empathy, and I think it requires a lot of empathy. This is such an emotionally charged time in people's lives. We've got big chapters of life closing with some new chapters opening. And how do you go about when someone contacts you? Like, what is the first step to help create that sense of safety that they can engage?
Very good. Great question. So ultimately, if you really look at our 7-step process, it begins and ends with gratitude. This is a very personal journey. And I think that by starting with gratitude, it helps to build a relationship. It's a very personal, when we're sorting through belongings and we're moving belongings and when we're setting up belongings and really listening to stories and sharing, and there's a lot of history, there could be a lot of regret. That is a very intimate, personal relationship, and it must start with gratitude. For somebody even entering being brave enough to have a phone call with us or to send us an email inquiring about our services, that's an act of bravery in and of itself. It's recognizing that they need help and that, and to find that best partner with them in the process.
I totally agree. And I'm constantly saying, if you have the business card of someone on your desk for whatever service it is that they offer, if you had the courage to reach your hand out and accept that business card, go ahead and make that call.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And, Michelle, there's also what we're finding is there's a lot of either shame in I should have done this or I didn't do that. Or, as we're sorting through belongings, there's some regret. It might be regret over a craft project that never got done or a scrapbook that never got put together. Or I should have had, these clothes don't fit. I should have gotten rid of them years ago. So really understanding there can be some very negative emotions that are tied to the moving process. However, we're starting from where we are, not where we think we should be. And so once our clients understand, we're not coming in, kicking down the front door, telling them how it has to be. We're really a partner with them in the process, and to use empathy. as much as we possibly can to hear the stories, to work with our clients in their timelines that they have, and to really cull through their items. It's a very liberating process because also as we work through our clients in the through our sorting sessions, we're not just getting rid of items that either are broken, not used, or part of a, that we aren't moving. We're actually, the flip side of that is really uncovering the items that are their favorites. And that's what we want to move with us. Because oftentimes we're downsizing. Maybe it's same square footage of an address, but maybe they have a kitchenette as opposed to a full kitchen. Maybe, there are certain dynamics that are a little bit different. So let's find the items that are the favorites and let's move those. Certainly in that process, we'll be letting go of a lot. But if we can work with our clients to really say, that's my favorite, or I never liked those pair of socks, or that doesn't fit anymore, or you know what, I'm not going to need that pizza pan, whatever those might be. If we can get them to understand what their favorites are, then let's only take those. I can't think of anybody at any age who doesn't want to live with just their favorites. And
I
so when
love that.
yes, it's
Oh my
so good.
gosh. You
And
like
so,
expanded my mind wide open with that comment. Yeah.
right? Like anybody at any age can start, living with simply their favorites. If something doesn't serve us, if we don't need it, if we don't use it, and we don't love it, hopefully it meets two of those three criteria: need, use, and love. Meets at least two of those criteria, then let's find a way to move it. If it doesn't, if those jeans aren't serving you anymore because they don't fit, or you never liked them, or you gave them another shot and you just didn't, again, I use a pair of jeans as kind of a frivolous example. However, for any age, if we don't need, use, or love it, let's pass it on.
Oh, that is so powerful. That is, what that to me feels like the flip side of the need to get rid of or dispose of, or it's like, instead of thinking in those terms, let's just really walk the house. And what are the things that you absolutely love? Like what brings that makes your heart flutter? And Tiny Home Nation was a TV show on Netflix for a little
Yes.
while. And I would walk my house and say, okay, what would I absolutely take for a tiny home? And I think part of it, having worked in a nursing home, is I've thought, what would I actually take?
Right.
Nursing
Right.
home.
Makes
Yeah,
a huge difference, doesn't it?
it
And
really does.
a couple of things that go along with need, use, and love. As we cull through our clients' homes, they have gifts. They have tangible gifts. And so there's a lot of sentiment and memory and almost a sense of obligation. So helping them understand, what, that gift, that candle may be a gift from your neighbor. If you don't like it, it's okay, because the gift isn't, the intention of a gift isn't to make somebody hold on to something they don't necessarily love. The intention of the gift is to a gesture of love, is the actual, giving of the gift in and of itself. And the other magical piece of it, the flip side to also helping our clients identify what they need, use, and love, is that if they don't need, use, or love it, or if they're kind of on the fence about a particular item, let's understand what happens if they don't keep that item, if they don't end up, moving it. What happens to that item? We talk about this stuff tsunami, that a term that I've kind of glammed onto, but what happens to all of our belongings that we choose not to keep? And so what we're working with our clients is to really make sure that they understand their belongings can have a purpose in the world. They can spark joy in somebody else's life, whether it's the blanket that they no longer use can go to somebody who doesn't have a blanket, or the items in their kitchen can help somebody restart a new life. So let's keep the items out of the landfill. That's a big motivation for us as we look to dispersing of the items that our clients no longer want. So, or no longer have a place for. They may want items, but as they're downsizing or moving to a new address, they may not have room for them or a practical use for them. So let's make sure we do something good in the world with those items.
And back to, I mean, I love that so much, because people, when they're looking at something, they're thinking about how much did this cost me?
Mm-hmm.
the value or perceived value of the
Mm-hmm.
item, and then that overwhelming sense of how do I get it to where it needs to go to continue. I love what you just said, continue to fulfill
Yes.
your purpose. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And if we end, so also, and you mentioned a great point, and I know we're kind of fast tracking some of these, key elements here. You mentioned the perceived value. We
Mm-hmm.
work a lot with our clients on, because we hear a lot, this, I paid this for that, or the tags may still be on an item, or, the paperwork's behind the artwork and we can see how much they paid to have it framed. There's a lot of investment that has gone into belongings. And so we also talk about perceived value. You may have paid a lot for your dining room table, and it may be worth a lot, or it may be name brand, or it may be, in its day when you purchased it, may have been a pretty penny. And we don't want to discount that fact. However, in today's world, it might not be worth that much. And if it is, we still have to find a buyer. So a lot of our conversations, and why a lot of families, get us involved in that disbursement process, is because we're able to have some of those, what seems to be very difficult conversations about resale and what that means in the secondary market about what something's worth. Because again, we still have to find the buyer. And if we can't find a buyer in the time frame that we have, because typically there is a time frame associated with the sorting, moving, this process, we have to be very real about the resale and the expectations.
As you were sharing that, what came to me was in the 90s, as I was setting up shop at the end of the 90s
Mm-hmm.
and early 2000s, there was a lot of discussion around heirloom furniture. And as you were sharing, it just occurred to me that that was a marketing technique and
Mm-hmm.
to help us want to spend more money or invest more into a piece of furniture like a table, a
Mm-hmm.
dining room table and chairs.
Mm-hmm.
There was maybe one particular company that really leveraged that. But yes, this concept of heirloom furniture. And so we've kind of held on to that for
Yes.
multiple decades. But really, it's about the value is about what someone will pay for
Mm-hmm.
it.
Absolutely. And there's no doubt that consumerism plays a factor in the age bracket of the clients that we're working with in senior move management. There's a psychology of belongings that we have, that we place a lot of emotion, we place a lot of financial value on the items that we have. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not here to preach minimalism. I'm not here to preach, I'm definitely quality over quantity. However, we do have to understand the psychology of consumerism and the advertising world, and we are, as a Western culture, we are advertising, and we are encouraged to be consumers at every level, and certainly not into fast fashion, not into quantity over quantity. But again, we have to also understand belongings to those that we serve in the senior move management. It is a different reality than the younger generations. The amount of their income was different when they invested in their dining room set. Their accessibility to belongings was different, so they may have held on to certain things or tried to repurpose things themselves. So again, the psychology of belongings becomes a huge factor in looking at how do we disperse, how do we understand what it is that we need, use, and love, and what is it that we actually can take with us in the next phase if we are downsizing.
In your experience, are there any specific common denominators of items that people struggle the most to let go of, or is it so individualized?
I would say absolutely photos. The picture, the actual paper photos,
Mhm.
and working through, do we digitize those? Do we have budget to digitize those? Because that is an added expense. Do we have room to store all of them? And, without sounding, again, keep it real, right? I mean, at some point, the next generation isn't going to know who's in these pictures. And that's not to say the next generation or my generation doesn't appreciate who's in those photos and doesn't appreciate the old time photos and the black and whites and those kinds of things, but they won't have a personal connection to those in the photographs. So at some point those photographs will get recycled. I'm confident of that. Now, that's certainly not something that I'm going to be that blunt about working with our clients. However, if we can document, if we can talk about the history, if we can write on the back of the photographs, if we can make sure that we are delivering the history, usually in written format or digital format, it helps to cultivate those, but also gives them some responsibility in passing on that history. So I would absolutely say the number one hardest thing to get to let go of is photographs.
You just said the word cultivate, and the word that keeps coming up as you were talking about like going through the house and identifying your favorite things was curate was the word that came up for me. And I'm thinking about my husband and I were literally just having this conversation because we have like 25 photo albums in this here closet right behind me and a pile of stuff over here that really could benefit from going in the closet. I have a photo album full of pictures of my high school boyfriend from when I was 17, and I am 52 years old. I am thinking part of my mission is to like pluck out a picture, if I even want one, and just get rid of it. Absolutely. Just literally get rid of all the rest. I don't need to scan those pictures because nobody cares. And I sort of don't care at this point either.
Right. If it were appropriate, I would actually turn my screen over to a 6-foot table that I have over here where I'm culling through my high school and college actual physical pictures. So I've talked with several photo managers, those that are scanning, those that are putting together histories and photo albums digitally for clients. And I'm asking them who are their clientele, and they're mostly people our age. We're the same age, and they're mostly those that are, I don't want to say caught, but here we have a whole generation of our photographs when you did get doubles on Tuesdays because they were free doubles when you had them printed. And some of our kids' photos are photographs, actually printed photographs. And then we're also then in a world where we transitioned to digital. So our families are both paper and digital. And how do we then mesh those worlds together so that we don't have all of this? Because even in digital, you still have either monthly subscriptions to digital services, or you still have digital files. There still is digital clutter is a thing. So we're in this generation where we're caught between paper and digital.
I mean, I think I have 59,000 pictures in my iPhone gallery. And you're right. Like our first daughter, she's 22, a lot of paper pictures 22 years ago. iPhones weren't as prevalent as whatever digital. Right. Anyway, and the third kid who was born in 2007, it's a lot more digital.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, share a little bit about the process. So how, when someone does courageously make that call or easily makes the call, everything doesn't have to be brave and courageous, just make the call. So when someone reaches out to you, what happens next?
Sure. Absolutely. Great question. So we take our clients through a process. So again, like I said, it begins and ends with gratitude because this is a very empathetic, emotional, brave journey here. However, a lot of times there is a trigger. Our seniors are triggered to move for a reason. It might be financial. It might be health related. It might be the death of a loved one or a partner or something. Something has triggered the why now scenario. So I never want to take that for granted. So again, while I lead with activation, I certainly have that empathy in there. So it's a mix of understanding the scenario and getting the job done. So ideally, the second phase of the process is a discovery session. And in that discovery session, it's typically a face-to-face meeting. If the person in transition, people in transition are close, And I would also like to meet with the key family members. It could be, the power of attorney. It could be an adult child that lives in the area, whatever that. It could be a neighbor. It really depends on that individual person's scenario. So the discovery session, typically 60 to 90 minutes. Typically face to face. Again, I think in this scenario, with this being such a personal relationship, we have to have that human connection. We can't escape that human connection. And also, I want to shake hands. I want that person to meet me, meet my team, and understand that we're here to take care of, we're here to get a job done, but we're also here to take, first and foremost, to take care of them. So 60 to 90 minutes. The outcome of that discovery session, from my perspective, is, first and foremost, the human connection, but also we have to need to understand goals, needs, and timeline. So what are our goals here? Is it to move in 2 years? Did we just sign a lease at the new address, and so we're moving in 16 days? What are the actual needs? How can the move coordinators, our company, support the network? It might be working one-on-one or one-on-two with the person or people in transition to get moved because the family are check writers, or maybe the family doesn't live close, or the family doesn't have time. Now, keep in mind, adult children nowadays are, again, Michelle, people like you and me, who we have adults who are aging, but we also have children. So we're in this sandwich. And again, that's nothing new, in the scope of time. However, it's a different circumstance with the volume of belongings that seniors have these days, and also, some of us waited a little bit to have children, so our children aren't adults just yet. So there is a caretaking aspect coming and going. So again, understanding what the needs are, how can the move coordinator support them in that process, and then what timeline are we working under? We just took a client of ours. We had a 90-day plan. It was beautiful. We were, so great. We're going to put the house on the market in the spring. They ended up being able to sign a lease at their number one choice community. And so we shrunk that down to 16 days. So, and again, so that, and the mindset shifted a little bit. And then we've got clients who, they don't have a definite move date. It could be 2 years from now, pluses and minuses of both scenarios. But again, understanding that timeline, and then we will work from there accordingly. During our discovery sessions, we are also doing a digital recording of the high and low value assets. Couple reasons for that. So we're taking pictures. We put it in a proprietary platform that only two of us have access to. And ultimately, what we're doing is getting a sense of the home. I mean, we are looking in kitchen drawers. We are looking in cabinets. Again, we start off fairly intimate, but we also need to know what it is that we're working with, because that will become invaluable at the time of our sending a proposal. So, it might also be, what does grandma's jewelry drawer look like? Do we have high value assets that are part of an estate? What is it that we're working with? So again, recording that for high value and low value asset purposes. But Michelle, we're also doing that because we are also then eventually, after the move, when we settle them, we'll be recreating areas. So I really pride ourselves, and I know it sounds kind of silly, but I really pride ourselves on what your nightstand looks like right now is what your nightstand is going to look like in your new address, because that comfortability, that consistency in belongings and location is extremely important in the senior move process, because they're already moving to a new place, regardless of it might be brand new community, it might be an apartment, it might be in the family. Regardless, we have to be able to be in a position to recreate certain parts of their life as is. Case in point, we had a gentleman who was moving, and we took a picture of his refrigerator because it was loaded full of notes and business cards and memento magnets from vacations and trips, and magnet hooks. And we took a picture of that. We took everything off of his refrigerator, and then we recreated it in his new place because I already tested his fridge. I knew it was magnetic. So, again, we are, that is familiar. That's what his fridge looks like when moving day starts, and it's what it looks like when moving day ends. So again, documenting, and again, digitally, because eventually somebody else, a family member, or people in transition, it could be an estate planning attorney, it could be any key individual, will need to know what is high value and low value assets in the home. So after that discovery session, our team comes back to the office and we put together a partnership plan. We put together a proposal that is, here are all of the elements that we see beneficial, that we can help support the people in transition. There's not a gray area. There's a lot of ethics involved in working with seniors, because who's our client? So we answered that question quite a bit. And again, understanding these are not the family's belongings, these are the belongings of the people in transition, and we need to be respectful of that, because what the person in transition might want could be very different than what the family or support system might want. So we write a partnership plan, we give an estimate, and the difference in what we do is it is an all-in price. So we give a laundry list of all of the items and all of the goods and services that we provide, that we could provide, that we see as beneficial, and then we put a price to that. So it's not based on a timesheet. It's not based on anything other than, this is our commitment to the client to hold to this number based on the variables that we've done in the discovery session. So the move coordinators, we've got some skin in the game up front. It's not a range. It's not saying it could cost this, but it could cost this. It's saying, this is what we're committing to our clients to the cost of all of the goods and services from the day we sign our contract to the final settling of the move, and usually beyond. It's a commitment to our clients. It's not a nickel and dime process. So we outline every packing paper, boxes, fuel, truck, time spent, disbursement, all in, based on what our clients' needs are. So from there, we come to an agreement. We have a deposit, a two-step payment process: deposit, and then upfront at time of contract signing, and then we get to work. We do curate a custom move plan. We put that together based on the goals, needs, and timeline. We always come back to the bedrock of our foundational principles: goals, needs, and timeline, and we craft the plan and we enact the plan. So then we have our step 5 is prepare. So we prepare for the move, and that's the sorting, culling, curating, disbursement. We might be shipping a motorcycle to Seattle. We might be selling a pinball machine. We might be doing getting ready for an estate sale, or dispersing to a number of nonprofits or family members, or wherever those items are going that they are not planning on taking. But in that process, we've already space planned. If they know what address they're moving to, we've space planned, because they might have, a large 4-seater blue suede couch that they need, use, and love it. But we need to make sure that we can actually move that it will actually fit in the new address. So we've done the space planning. So preparation is probably the heart of our value to the client and to our clients' families and support system, because that typically does take a little bit of people power to put that together. But again, we're not just getting rid of items and dispersing. We're picking their favorites, and that is what we are taking with us, and that is what we are preparing for move and packing up. And then we've got a big day. We've got a move day. It's typically a single day if we're moving locally. Now, certainly there are different dynamics if we're doing interstate moves. However, I always like to be first on the moving truck list. That way we're, again, a little bit in charge of the day. So ultimately we packed everything up. Day of move, it's loading the truck. It may be packing a few personal effects, and then we're shuttling over, and we've got a systematic way of packing trucks. Last on is first off. So that way, as our move team is taking off, typically the clothing boxes or the personal effects boxes, we're setting up the bathrooms, the closets, the kitchen area, while the move team is then unpacking the beds, getting the mattresses put together, some of the larger furniture. So it's a very systematic, efficient way of moving and settling. And then the final step is wrap up. We may need to assist with hooking up of the cable or getting the computers online, or, it could anything. It could be
Mhm.
anything. Maybe there's some items left at the previous residence that we need to go back and grab. Some plants. Plants might be a separate move. Those kinds of things. And then, of course, gratitude. We always, from the heart, are very appreciative of our clients' families, of their trust in us, of the process, of the faith that they put in our relationship. And, we want to make sure that they're comfortable. And that becomes with, a lot of love and gratitude at the end.
I love that you bookend this with gratitude. I think that is
Yes.
really, really special.
Thank you.
It feels like just as you're describing the system, the process that you take people through and go through with them, that you're really working to eliminate needing to make decisions on the fly, just like you're really setting people up for success. And I loved with the refrigerator magnets and the nightstand. What I heard was recreating rather and not reinventing, because like already this
Hmm.
is so stressful, so you are recreating what
Hmm.
they had in those spaces. um, and as you were talking about what you sign together, the plan that everybody signs, it's like we're all on the same page that this is what's
Hmm.
happening. So we're agreeing ahead of time to avoid those triggering moments in the middle of it.
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, again, we're a new business. One thing that we set out to do from the very beginning is to understand what makes our clients comfortable.
Mhm.
Our clients aren't they don't need to bring their checkbook to pay the movers. Movers need
Right.
payment day of. So we're taking care of those types of details, the financial types of details, to make sure that that eases the stress of our clients. Moving day is a big deal. I don't need our clients or their families to, where's the checkbook? Where's, is there money for gratuities? What, I got it. We have all of that. That is a calculated, prepared detail that we're taking care of up front.
Have you ever moved anyone within the same building, like they're downsizing to a smaller space in the same building or community?
We have not had that scenario, but it will be coming up fairly soon. We're all aging differently,
Mhm.
so we've got some couples in our sites that have moved that we believe, based on how they're aging differently, a move inside a building will be imminent.
Yeah.
And ultimately, again, without having experience in that realm, I don't see the process to be much different. We'll still have to cull through items. Chances are it will be either a separation of assets or a downsizing of assets. So, the process will be the same.
And that is top of mind for me because I am flying to Canada February 26th to help my mom and her husband, my stepdad, move out of
Hmm.
their condo into a smaller apartment
Hmm.
within the same building. So we're working through it, and my mom is super organized. She was an attorney,
Ah,
and she's
good.
very detail oriented, and
Hmm.
um, so I know she listens to the podcast. So I thought, oh, if
Ah,
Lesley has
good.
like burning wisdom
Yes.
for us.
Yes. Space plan, sort, cull through. Again, there may be things that as they, in their condo that they don't like anymore, or they don't see, or they don't need or use. So, need, use, and love. I mean, again, these principles are applicable to a downsize inside a building. And just think, you don't have to probably pack stuff as tight as you did moving from one. You're
I'm
in the
thinking like we
building,
need a grocery cart just to.
right? Hey, whatever it
Oh,
takes.
yeah. Well, and she's very practical, and I think that is definitely those that is definitely need, use, and
Mhm.
love are definitely the
Mhm.
framework that she is
Mhm.
operating within.
Right.
So as so we're kind of rounding the bend here. The people who listen to this podcast, many of them are the adult children. And so
Mhm.
maybe they are having angst about what they can see on
Mhm.
the horizon, but
Mhm.
maybe the parent isn't necessarily in that same headspace or ready.
Right.
Is there
Mhm.
any way that as adult children we can be having these conversations that you would recommend with our parents?
Absolutely. I think that it's never too early to start planning for the next move. Again, at any age, right?
Mhm.
Um, But again, we have to understand the emotional attachment to belongings. And also when seniors are letting go of their belongings, ultimately what they're doing is reinventing themselves. And that may not be it's not a comfortable scenario. Nobody wakes up and says, maybe I'm the only one. Hey, I want to move today. It is a top stressor in our lives. It's like top three. So being realistic about the expectations of just getting rid of their belongings, because they're not just belongings. It's part of who they are. And
Mm.
it's a part of their history. We may be seeing pictures of our parents, grandparents that we may not have never met. I don't say it doesn't mean anything to us. I don't want to be that blunt about it, but it means something different to us than it does our parents. So letting go of some of the things that is easy for us is not going to be easy for the generation ahead of us. So again, having that empathy. I One of our clients, I told their adult daughter, a couple weeks ago, we'll probably end up saying the same things. Our words aren't much different. Our goals are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Our words aren't much different, but coming from, an outside of the family person, it means a little bit different. It's just different. So I would say starting the conversations, one thing, and again, I'm an only child. So I don't have siblings. Maybe that's a blessing or a curse in the downsizing process, but my parents are going through currently actively going through a complete house clear out. Their scenario is a little bit different. They're moving from, two homes to one, which, is a unique scenario, but they can't take much with them. Maybe a picture and their socks to their second home because two homes are full.
Mm.
So having the conversation with my parents about what they want to give me and what I want from them. Again, we're talking material items, so if they made a list and I made a list of 10 things, I bet you maybe two would be the same.
Mm.
So what they want to give me is very different than what I wish to receive. So, but having those conversations, and we can't help, it is personal. This is a very personal journey. So it does get personal real quick. But again, having those conversations, but also offering alternatives. If grandma has a China hutch and nobody has room for it, well, we just can't say yes to the China hutch because
Mm.
it's not practical. But if grandma has some Christmas earrings, or, from personal experience, from
Mm.
Christmas earrings, or, a sweatshirt, okay, I can take those from my grandma. Those are easy slam dunks. But, argument avoided. I don't have to have comment. Take the items if you can say yes. And, there's various different stances on that. I would say avoid the argument, say yes if you can, and then if you pass it on, or whatever you choose to do with it after that. But the transaction is, that they're seeing their items as gifts, and so it's like rejecting a gift.
Mm.
So
Yes.
being sensitive to that. But again, having the conversation, or entertaining the idea. Let's start small. So we understand from our business lens, is the hardest part is getting started. So we offer it's called Pick One Project. Pick one project. We'll come over a couple hours. You get to know us, very, no obligation. Let's go through, maybe it's papers, maybe it's a closet, maybe it's something, that that's top of mind, or it might be a slam dunk lob easy project to go, to tackle. But we believe once we get the project started and our clients can see, hey, your crafting supplies just impacted hundreds of people, because we sent the true story, we sent the fabric to quilters who are teaching others how to quilt.
Oh,
So it didn't go in the landfill.
yeah.
They were thrilled at all the fabric and the string, or the thread, and the supplies, and all of those things got put to good use. So we're actually extending the reach of their hobby by passing it on. So again, that was an example of a pick one project. And so now I can go back to that client and say, thank you for, again, gratitude all along the way. Thank
Mhm.
you for letting your items go because you are having an impact in hundreds of people learning how to quilt or, learning how to iron or sew on a button or whatever, whatever that might be.
I,
So
I love
again,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm thinking about, I like that idea of you making a list and your parents making a list, because it was interesting last summer. Our daughter, who's the oldest, was living at home for the summer, and she knows that we're constantly running to the Goodwill or
Mhm.
donation centers.
Mhm.
And she said, if you ever want to get rid of this green watering can, I want it. And
Heck yes.
I mean, and I was so grateful that she spoke up, because it would have never occurred to me. That is easily something that I would have just
Yes.
said, I use the hose. I'm not
Mhm.
using this. I'm going to get rid of it.
Yes.
I
Yes.
was so grateful that she brought it to my attention. The other thing that came
Absolutely.
up was how many times are parents approaching adult children and adult children are brushing them off?
Mhm.
Like,
It
because
happens.
because they're feeling like it's overwhelming, or they're feeling like, I don't want to talk about this. You're fine. Or, but the parent is like thinking and planning ahead, but the
Mhm.
adult children are like
Mhm.
resistant.
Resistant because they don't have time. They
Yeah.
don't want their, first grade report cards and all of the things that our parents kept. They don't want those kinds of things and
Yes.
belongings. So, but again, um, it's hard, and not and every family dynamic is different.
Hmm.
So again, being also respectful of some of those boundaries as well. Michelle, one other thing I'll share, as we compare our lists between what our parents want to give us and what we would like to receive, I also suggest, and I'd like to thank my grandmother for this. We have little cards called history bits, and a little bit of history. So they're cards, and what we encourage our senior clients to do is to write the history down.
Mm.
So again, we have a berry bowl of my grandmother's. It's a piece of china. We bring it out once a year. It has a special, spoon to it, and she has a card in there, and it says exactly who got it for their wedding gift, what year it was. It's actually called a berry bowl, so we can have its name. But she wrote down a little bit of history for us, and so we also get to see her handwriting every
Mm.
year. We pull it out at the holidays. And so I really encourage seniors, write down the history if we can, or let me write it down for you, or record that history, so that as these items are passed on, the history can stay with it, or at least gives us a talking point, to talk about what was special about some their belongings.
Oh, that's so special. What a great idea. Because that is sort of the meaning behind everything. Otherwise, it's just stuff. It's the
It's
stories
just stuff.
behind it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Storytelling. Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Any final parting words, Lesley?
This isn't moving is not an easy process at any age. And seniors have a certain circumstances in their life that make it a little bit more complex, I would say, comparatively speaking. So just there are resources out there. Senior move management is a thing.
Hmm.
And, as families, as individuals, as seniors, it's really important to get the resources that you need. Where senior move managers are part of a larger ecosystem and network to support seniors. So help is out there. Please do research in your area on senior move management. It is a thing. It is an industry, and certainly help is out there. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Fabulous. And we'll put your organization's information in the show notes so people can quickly find you.
Great. Thank you so much for today. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for being here.